my wife was in the hospital about to give birth to our third child. My staff sergeant called me about some bullshit on the ready line. You know what I mean? I told him, hold on, staff sergeant, I'm on my way. Mind you, she 5 centimeters dilated. The birth about to happen. I'm putting my cami blouse on, talking about, hey, I got to go back to work real quick. I'll be right back.
I want to say something. A prize, motherfucker.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's going on, everybody? As we all know, mental health is a huge piece for me. And recently, as I become a better version of myself, I've decided that it's time for me to go to therapy because I understand how life can be a little overwhelming and we all need help navigating through the trenches of military service in and out of uniform. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, all you got to do is go to their site. Matter of fact, you can use my link right here. Answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a professional who has years of experience in helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call or video chat or messaging, however you feel most comfortable. It's the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You will be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your home. Visit betterhelp.com/MeechSpeaks and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of the Talking Crazy podcast. Now, before we get started with this podcast, don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Now, one thing about me, I can say that I've grown. One thing about me, I promise you, I'm not the same person that started creating content back in 2020. In fact, I promise you, those two people, like I'm talking about Meech now versus Meech then, two different people. If you would have met Sergeant Thigpen before he became Meech Speaks, I promise you, a lot of y'all probably wouldn't even like me. You know what I mean? Like a lot of y'all probably even like me. To be honest with you, as I think back on who I used to be, I'm so grateful that I grew. And this really came from, this episode really came from today's trip to medical. Now, for those who don't know, knee fucked up, all right? Messed my knee up last week, been limping around, ain't been able to put a lot of pressure on it, barely been able to train. And I finally decided, I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and go to medical. I need to get seen. I need to see what the fuck's wrong with it. And as I was leaving medical, driving back to my job, I sat back and I was like, damn, man, there was a time when I wouldn't even did this. You know what I mean? Like, there's a time when I would have pretended like I was okay. There was a time, right, where I had certain ideologies, a certain type of mindset, certain traits about myself that just didn't make sense. To be honest with you, it was very toxic. So with that, as we dive into today's episode, this episode is all about me unlearning the toxic military traits that I had acquired throughout my military service. Let's go ahead and get started. Number one. All right, once again, I don't think like this, all right? I do not think like this, all right? This is who I used to be. But number one, I used to judge the fuck out of fat Marines, okay? Not only did I used to judge fat Marines, but if you was out of shape, if you was bad at PT, you was never going to get any love out of me. All right, I'm going to just be honest with you. You was not getting any love out of me if you was out of shape. All right, I just never understood how some people could be, 19 years old, already have a dad bod. Shit didn't sit right with me. If you was unsightly in uniform, you weren't getting love out of me. And if you was on BCP, automatically, you was a shitbag. You feel me? And I know for a fact, this was not my own ideology. This was a mindset that a lot of people thought of. You feel me? This is a mindset that a lot of people thought. You feel me? Like if you were fat, if you were out of shape, if you were bad at PT, then honestly, you probably weren't a good fucking Marine. You could have been great at your job, bro. Like you could have been great at your job. But because you fall out of runs, you're probably a piece of shit. And I say that because that's how I thought as a PFC. I just could not take a leader serious if you were terrible at PT. You feel me? Damn, don't be talking to me if you fat. And that carried from Lance Corporal to Sergeant. You feel me? And I remember one time walking in to a locker room, and I think I had walked in as the Marines from BCP had just got done working out, and they were changing over. And one of them, like, he was talking, man, you know, like, my condition, it runs in my family. I interjected, and I was like, condition? I was like, brother, nobody runs in your family. That's why y'all here. It smells like a fucking Taco Bell in here. I was wrong. I was 100% wrong for saying that. You know what I mean? Just because that Marine is fat, that didn't give me the right to say that. Just because a Marine fall out of PT, that don't necessarily mean that he a shitbag. I didn't learn that until I would, mature in the Marine Corps. And what I mean by it is because please understand, I am not making an excuse for no fat Marine, period. I'm not making an excuse for a Marine that falls out. However, usually there's a reason. Me as a recruiter man, I already know that guy, in order for him to go to boot camp, he's got to be within a certain height and weight standards. I know for a fact in boot camp, he gonna lose weight. Somewhere along the line, something happened. You feel me? And I remember being a sergeant, and I once again, Staff Sergeant Noty really brought the human out of Sergeant Thigpen. You feel me? He didn't talk to me like a Marine. He talked to me like a dad. He talked to me like a brother. He talked to me like a human would talk to another human. And I always will appreciate that because that would carry on with me. You feel me? And one thing that I learned is that, and I challenge anybody that sees a fat Marine or sees a Marine that's out of shape or sees a Marine that's kind of like falling out in PT. Like, ask yourself, like, what happened? You feel me? Like, what happened? Fun fact of the day, some people, man, like depression, they eat, they stop going to the gym. It's a clear indicator. We sit back and we berate the Marine for being fat, but the Marine probably got hurt, probably ended up on light duty, probably ended up having to get surgery. You know what I mean? And because he had to get surgery, he ended up putting on a couple of pounds. You know what I mean? Like, so there's so many things that go into that. And we ignore it because of the simple fact that, oh, God, you're fat. You're fat. Get away from me. You fell out of PT. You're a piece of shit. Crazy mindset. Crazy mindset. I'm talking about if you didn't run a first class PFT, you were trash to me. And before I go into the second point, I will never forget a Marine that I came across. All right. I was at my second duty station. His name was Packer. All right. I think Packer ended up becoming a Lance Corporal, probably even a corporal. But I remember Packer. Packer, solid Marine. You feel me? Solid Marine. And then we were playing soccer. This is why I don't really care too much about like unit PTs. But we were playing soccer and Packer tore his fucking MCL and meniscus playing soccer. Obviously, he had to get surgery. You know what I mean? Packer was in like this bionic cast for, I want to say, like 6 months up to a year. They couldn't do anything with him, so they put him in dispatch. All Packer could do was sit down, do his job, and eat. Needless to say, this Marine who was a 300 PF tier ended up becoming, third class PFT, got a little chunky, got a little heavy. And it was very apparent. But the one thing that never changed about Packer, I'm talking about Packer put on some fucking, Packer was packing. You know what I mean? He was packing. But the one thing that never changed about him was about his smile. Packer still smiled. He still showed up. He still had the highest customs and courtesies, knew so much about his job. You feel me? He was literally like a lot foreman. He was just hefty. You know what I mean? And he had to get that weight off. And I remember saying to myself, like, damn, man, like, I wish Packer wasn't fat, bro, because he'd be solid. But that wasn't even his fault. And I would carry that mindset. And I would always think about Packer when I would get on the Marine for being fat. You know what I mean? Once again, I ain't making an excuse. But at the exact same time, I know now that there is a why. Number 2. And boy, I tell you right now, you just had to be in. You just had to be in when we thought like this, okay? But man, it used to be a time that you would get shunned for going to medical, okay? You would get shunned. You would get shamed for going to medical. You on what? You on light duty. You on limited, dude. Oh, what you trying to get out of, PT? What you trying to get out of, a hike? You ain't really hurt. You know, I've had worse injuries and I still toughed it out. That used to be the mindset, bro. And that type of mindset is exactly what I had. You feel me? I'm talking about we used to, there was a time when we would shame Marines for going to medical. Mind you, medical is fucking free, bro. That's why it's there. But we would shame them for going to medical. Now, once again, this mindset, this comes from seeing Marines finesse the medical program. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, all of a sudden you got an injury when we got a hike. Oh shit, you got to go to medical now that you hear that so-and-so is about to run PT. You feel me? Oh, really? You hurt, but I be seeing you do all of that. That's where that came from. But once again, just like the previous one, and I feel like with a lot of these mindsets, a lot of these traits, they started off small and reasonable and evolved into extreme and just no logic to it. You feel me? Like there was no real fucking logic. But there used to be a time, bro, like we would shame you for being on light duty, for being on limited duty. You know, even if we didn't say it to your face, we kind of would look at you like, I don't know if you could be in a leadership position. I don't know if I could trust you on light duty. You feel me? Do you know how stupid that is? Like let's dial it back for a second. You get hurt, right? You twist your ankle. You can barely walk on it, let alone even put pressure on it. And instead of going to medical, you go on a 3-mile hike. You go on a 3-mile hike. And because you can't use your leg, you start falling out of the hike. And you continue to keep going. And not only do you continue to keep going, you're putting this unnecessary pressure and strain on something that is clearly messed up and injure it more. Now, that sprain turns into a fracture. That fracture turns into a full-on break. Your ass is on fucking crutches or now walking around with a cane. Now you gotta fucking get surgery. All because you wanted to pretend like you were okay? All because you wanted to pretend like you were tough? Fucking dumb. God, oh my gosh. But once again, just like what I said, I had to unlearn that because I got hurt once. And I remember falling down a fucking hill because my leg was messed up and my leg, it couldn't keep up with my other leg and it couldn't keep up with the momentum of me going down the hill. And because of that, I ended up just tripping over my other leg and just falling down it. And even then, my sergeant forced me to go to medical. I remember in MCMAP, I took a fucking concussion. And rather than go to medical, you feel me? Because I felt like if I went to medical, I was a weak leader. Rather than go to medical, I would just say that I had been drinking. That's why I'm a little loopy. You know how stupid that sounded? And then I'll pull my staff sergeant off to the side and say, no, I got hurt. Just don't tell the Marines. It was that pride aspect of me fucking not wanting to be portrayed as a weak leader, not being portrayed as somebody that's weak. Now, man, I'll go to medical in a heartbeat. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, ain't nobody gonna remember, damn, man, he was tough. No, they're gonna say that you're fucking stupid. They're gonna say you're stupid. Now you got a fucking injury that could have been prevented, but instead you was tough and now here you are with no fucking cartilage in your knee. Now here you are about to get fucking steroids in your back. Now here you are fucking about to get reconstructive surgery on something that could have been fucking avoided. It just didn't make sense back then. Now the next one, I ain't even proud of it, to be honest with you. I've been in the Marine Corps for 16 years. I thought longer like this than I did like this. You feel me? Like for the past 10 years, I didn't stop thinking like this until probably like, I want to say like 2020. You feel me? But the Marine Corps over my family. I know some Marines right now. Marine Corps, the Marines, family. You see what I'm saying? Me, 100%. You know what I mean? I'm talking about family could come down from Michigan. We be on the East Coast. If the Marines need me, let me rephrase that. If the Marine Corps needs me, I'm out of here. You feel me? Hey, peace. I gotta go. I remember at the time, my wife was in the hospital about to give birth to our third child. My staff sergeant called me about some bullshit on the ready line. You know what I mean? I told him, hold on, staff sergeant, I'm on my way. Mind you, she 5 centimeters dilated. The birth about to happen. I'm putting my cami blouse on, talking about, hey, I got to go back to work real quick. I'll be right back. I'm willing to miss family memories, school recitals. I'm willing to skip a parent-teachers conference for the sake of the mission. Let me rephrase that. I'm willing to skip lifetime events for a day-to-day tasker. And I prided myself on the simple fact that that's what I'm supposed to do as a leader. Not realizing how much of an example I set with my Marines. Let me rephrase that. How much of a bad example I'm setting to my Marines. You ever wonder why divorce be at an all-time high in the military? Ask him how many times he set his family in second place. Ask him how many times he put his family in second place. It took me damn near 10 years to unlearn that type of mindset. It took me 10 years to realize that when all of this is said and done, the only people that I will have in my corner is my family and my friends. Because at the end of the day, and one thing that I've learned is that the military was there before me. It will be there after I'm gone, dude. But the people who will be there are the people that I constantly keep putting in second place. So that one right there, I had to really unlearn, because I remember I was sitting in a house. Nothing but boxes all around me. Family done moved out, talking about they leaving me. And all I could think of, man, I got to go ahead and train the Marines. Dumb shit. Dumb shit. Number 4, once again, I feel like number 3 and number 4 probably took me the longest to unlearn. You know what I mean? Because of the simple fact that if I wasn't stepping into the self-care space, if I wasn't really paying attention to mental health, if I wasn't really proactive with these things, I don't think I would have really learned them. You know what I mean? But number 4, there was a time when I thought the Marine Corps was all that I had. Okay? And I'm going to just be honest with you. There are a couple of Marines right now that think that the Marine Corps is all that they have. You feel me? And I don't know who need to hear this, but this is very short term. Okay? That's not me talking bad about the Marine Corps. I love the Marine Corps. You feel me? But at the exact same time, as somebody that's been in for 16 years, we have to realize that the most that you probably gonna do, 20 years, maybe 22, maybe 24, maybe 20, maybe 30, who knows? But it ain't long, baby. It ain't long. All right? I promise you that. And the problem is when you think that the Marine Corps is the only thing that you have, you don't even look at the things that you could potentially have. Let me rephrase. You don't even try to create other things while you're in. You feel me? I can't tell you how many Marines that I met in my entire career that have gotten out of the Marine Corps or essentially retired. And it's always the retirees. It's not necessarily EAS ones. The EAS guys, like, they do their 4 years, and they already know that they about to go to college, work in a different field, etc. It's usually the ones that's 10 years, 16 years, 20 years, bro, dedicate their entire lives to the military. And then when it's finally said and done, ain't got nothing to show for it. About to go to fucking college. That's all they can say. And they scared. It took me damn near 10 years to realize there's other things out there, bro. It took me going to job fairs. It took me building a resume. It took me finding a passion. It took me chasing dreams to realize that there are other things out there. And if you don't look on the other side of the fence, you ain't gonna know. You cannot be thinking that this is all that there is, bro. Motherfuckers be scared to get out of the military, man, because they don't know anything else, man. And then on top of that, not only are they scared to get out of the military, they fearmonger everyone else to stay in the military because your ass is fucking scared. You scared. That Lance Corporal, that corporal, oh no, he's not. He plans on going to college. Oh no, you talking about that corporal right there that you used to get on for going to college? Oh no. He already got a job lined up. Oh, you talking about that Marine right there? You know, the one that you used to laugh about doing social media? Well, he was actually making connections and setting himself up and creating a exit plan for when he decided to get out. Trust me, it's other things out there. Number 5. I used to think that MCMAP actually worked. All right, let me clear it up, man, so that way y'all don't twist this up. I became a martial arts instructor trainer 2014. You feel me? I've been teaching MCMAP longer than some Marines have been in the Marine Corps. You feel me? I used to think that MCMAP was the end all be all. You feel me? Like I thought, and when I say this, I'm talking about like typical MCMAPper shit. Not me talking bad about the program. All right. I'm talking about some MCMAPper shit. Like you stand there in a static position and I'm supposed to execute this technique on you and that's going to fucking work. And I can do that out in a live environment, even though I've never done it on a live opponent. And when somebody would give me some type of resistance, I would think like, why are you fighting me? Just let me do it. Not realizing that that's exactly what a real person would actually do. I used to think that these little tabs, these little stripes that were on my belt were my power level and meant that I could beat a tan belt. I could beat a gray belt. I could beat a green belt, brown belt, black belt. I could beat anybody under my power level. And if you had a higher level, like more stripes to me, like 3rd degree, 4th degree, 5th degree, that means that you could beat me. Yeah, that's not true. Yeah, that's not true, brother. That's not true. I learned that as soon as I got to the mace. Shit, I learned that day one once I got to the mace. Learned that day one. First and foremost, for those who have fought before, whether that's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, Krav Maga, karate, fucking kickboxing, you know for a fact that just because you learned something, tested out on it, that don't mean that it's going to work if you ain't never used it in a live sparring engagement. If you ain't never used it live, that means it won't work. That's a fact. 2, just because he a tan belt, that don't mean that he ain't been, I don't know, doing wrestling his entire life. Just because he a gray belt, that don't mean that he wasn't doing boxing before he came into the Marine Corps. You feel me? I can't tell you how many boxers, wrestlers, guys that have been doing jiu-jitsu way before they ever met the Marine Corps martial arts program. Dog. But the thing is that I was an instructor, so I didn't know no better. I don't understand why this guy is doing an arm drag. And the thing that I had to really learn, let me rephrase that, I had to unlearn it so I could learn it, is that because you don't practice, because you don't spar, because you're not actively doing this, you don't even realize that you're in danger. You don't even realize that you're standing in front of somebody that has completely outclassed you. And he about to ball you up. He about to do you bold. Once again, number 3, 4, and 5 took me damn near 10 years to unlearn. And it had to happen with experience. You feel me? Now, here's the other thing about this. I had to already understand that motherfuckers that usually say MCMAP don't work probably don't practice it. Okay? And I don't know who need to hear this. You actually have to practice. You have to spar. You have to condition. You have to treat this like any other martial arts in order for it to work. You cannot just be doing this on some fucking static aggressor and think that it's going to work. Just because you test it out, promise you don't know shit. You don't know shit. But as we come to a close to this episode, I can't stress this enough. A lot of these things, it took me like 10 years to unlearn. You feel me? And as I look back on it, am I ashamed? Not really, because that was really a part of me back then. You know what I mean? That wasn't just my mindset. That was an overall mindset. But I do move forward making amends. You feel me? I do move forward making amends because of the simple fact that I just didn't know better back then. And once I learned better, I had to do better. Was this type of thought process, was it productive? Did it make me a good Marine? Probably. But I did go off on the deep end. And I will say this though, as I went through all of these, in theory, some of these things are good. You feel me? Like, you don't want to be fat. All right. We are in a warfighting organization. You do want to be in some type of functional shape. You feel me? But once you go to the extreme, that's when you start to go wrong. Number two, all right. There are going to be moments where you are you hurt or are you injured? Can you push through? Can you get through this? Or do you really need to take a step back? But once again, taking it to the extreme when you know for a fact that you should be sitting out and now you're still in. That's when you end up getting hurt. Number three, you know, putting the family first. Is it a priority? Absolutely. And we can do that in garrison. But is there a time and place? 100%. I'll never put my family over a Marine that needs me. You feel me? I'll never do that. When I'm deployed in an austere environment, I understand. I got to handle business. But when I'm home in garrison, you feel me, and I have the opportunity to be able to put my family first, then God damn it, guess what? I'm going to put my family first. Number 4, once again, man, I can't stress this enough. Is there life outside of the military? 100%. But just because there's life outside of the military does not mean that I have to start neglecting the military or treating it as if it's a backup plan while I'm still a primary player while in the military. And number 5, and this goes without saying, the program is only going to work as long as you work in the program. If you don't train, then the things that you learn, you ain't going to be able to do. And that's just a fact. I say all of this and I bring it all back in to say one thing, okay? Are these things, can you use these things? Will this make you a good Marine? Yes, but you have to have a balance because the moment that you start going into these extremes, that's when you start developing that toxic mindset that'll make a Marine get out. That's when you develop that toxic that's when you develop that toxic mindset that'll get you divorced, have you in a house by yourself and all your family done moved out. That's that toxic mindset that'll get you fucking injured beyond repair. That's that toxic mindset that'll leave you out of plan. So with that, if that's you who thinks like that, take a step back and self-reflect. If you know somebody that think like that, pull them off to the side. It's time to reflect. But at the same time, just because that's what we knew then, once you know better, you got to do better.
And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Also, don't forget to head on over to TikTok or Instagram and follow me at Meech Speaks. That's right, Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled M-E-E-C-H. Stay motivated, stay healthy. I'm out.